In the current war between Israel and Iran, well, there are so many happenings, and this video was really interesting about Israeli Prime Minister Netanyahu on intel of Iranian attempts to assassinate President Trump. You already know that Trump said that the United States is not going to get involved in, well, as so far as the recording of this video, the United States is not going to get involved in that war because, well, essentially, Iran has not, let's say, attacked the United States or any United States citizen per se. But that is by the making of this video. We don't know how can that change. And we need to analyze Netanyahu's body language in this one. His enemy number one, says Netanyahu, of Donald Trump in respect to Iran. And on when he let President Trump know of the plans for launching these strikes. I am going to use a bit of a footage that I wanted to analyze as well of Netanyahu addressing the people of Iran, because that would be important. Notice, first of all, the way that he wears the pins on this one, okay, this yellow pin and the Israel flag pin on the lapel on the other side. That's going to be important for this one. Okay, we're going to start watching right now.
I want to talk about the nuclear threat, and I want to talk about President Trump. You just said Iran tried to assassinate President Trump twice. Do you have intel that the assassination attempts on President Trump were directly from Iran?
A couple of things. When Brett Baier from Fox News asked him if do you have the intel to support those claims that Iran is trying to assassinate President Trump, there was this jaw clenching. I'm going to point it out from this distance right now.
Do you have intel that the assassination attempts on President Trump were directly from Iran?
Okay, I'm going to move the maybe move the marker right to his cheek so you can see it better. It's important because it's very subtle. And a couple of things that we need to talk about this video as well.
Do you have intel that the assassination attempts on President Trump were directly from Iran?
Yeah, there was a jaw clenching in there. This emotional reaction doesn't have a direct meaning, but there was an emotional reaction when he's asked, do you have actual intel about this? And let's see his answer.
Through proxies, yes. Through their intel, yes. They want to kill him. Look, he's enemy number one.
I noticed something that when he said that, first he said through proxies, yes, so not directly.
Through proxies, yes.
Then he stumbles just for a bit and looks down. I noticed this, that he had these doubts for just a second. I mean, we have seen Netanyahu so many times, and the way he can address people without any hesitation. These hesitations then become interesting emotional markers because he doesn't do this almost never. And I'm going to play just 10 seconds of 10 more seconds so you see something strange about this.
Through their intel, yes.
See the captions.
They want to kill him. Look, he's enemy number one. He's a decisive leader. He never took the path that others took to try to bargain with him in a way that is weak, giving them basically a pathway to enrich uranium, which means a pathway to the bomb.
So the first thing that I notice is that I notice him different in some way. Especially, one of the things that we need to remember about Netanyahu is that he's got a certain asymmetry to his face. In this case, I said, wait a second, his face looks different. And that's why I tell you that's so important to find out if a video is flipped. That's why I told you it was so important to pinpoint, first of all, the orientation of the pins in the other video. And when you see the yellow pin is on his right lapel, and the Israel flag is on the left lapel. And this is how we know that this one video is flipped. Another way of noticing that is that the writing of the books on his back. Okay, you might have noticed that the characters are flipped, are like a mirror. So this is not what we see strange on his face. For starters, is that we are seeing his face flipped, and this is important because sometimes we see somebody's face that we have seen other times, and we see them differently. We see them in a what is going on here. Another way that you can spot is the way that he combs his hair is on the opposite side. I mean, that might induce some bias in the way that you analyze people, so you have to be very careful about that. I'm going to compare with some of the words that he said on that address to Iranian people, so we can further compare when he's talking about Trump and the assassination attempts.
Tonight I wish to speak to you, the proud people of Iran. We're in the midst of one of the greatest military operations in history, Operation Rising Lion.
For example, here you notice that he's reading from script that he has. The speech is written, and he's reading from those pages. Something strange that he could have easy access to a teleprompter. Anyone can have easy access to a teleprompter, so it would be way more comfortable to just have your text in front of you. I don't know what is the reasoning behind having to read that from a paper, but again, a couple of things that I noticed is that you see that the asymmetry, this is the actual asymmetry of Netanyahu's face. His left eyebrow is raised, not his right, how we saw in the first video, because it is flipped, and he is constantly, this is part of his body language baseline, he is pulling his right lip corner, and that is the way that his face looks a bit crooked. That's important to know what is the actual configuration of his face, and of course his hair is combed and part in the right spot. That is important to notice that. But I noticed another thing that has nothing to do with the fact that he's reading from a script. What's that head shake that he was doing?
Tonight I wish to speak to you, the proud people of Iran.
You see that?
We're in the midst of one of the greatest military operations in history, Operation Rising Lion. The Islamic regime, which has oppressed you for nearly 50 years, threatens to destroy my country, the State of Israel. The objective...
Again, there's a couple things in here that I noticed before we go back to the other video. Is this kind of stuff. Again, I wouldn't think that somebody like Benjamin Netanyahu doesn't know and doesn't have people who know about this. But two things happening here. He's reading from a script that is right here, let's say in his solar plexus, very close to him. So he has to lower his head and lower his gaze. And he also has a very bright light right on top of him, something that is quite unusual. And so when you combine both things, you have this extremely threatening stare with this Senpaku eyes with a white right below the pupil and very easy to see. And of course, enhanced by the fact that he has this position. It's like I do this, and if I had a light, I have a soft light to one side, so I don't have this hard shadows on the bottom of my face, which is the fact that he wanted to hear. And I don't know, he was trying to encourage people of Iran, and this was I don't think that this was the right lighting for that purpose. He looks menacing. Maybe if he was addressing the Iran regime, well, that would have made more sense. But right now, well, it's more his body language and his image is more threatening than anything else. I cannot help but think that this must be on purpose in some way or another. I couldn't believe for 1 second that this guy is not going to know what he's doing. He's like Trump. Everything is, let's say 99% if carefully calculated. It is what it is.
The objective of Israel's military operation is to remove this threat, both the nuclear threat and the ballistic missile threat to Israel.
Yeah, let's go back to the original clip when he is talking about, well, this that Iran is trying to assassinate Trump.
He never took the path that others took to try to bargain with him in a way that is weak, given them.
The shaking of the head is totally different here compared to how he was speaking a minute ago. So it's like besides the mirroring of the video, is like we are seeing two different Netanyahus.
Giving them basically a pathway to enrich uranium, which means a pathway to the bomb, padding it with billions and billions of dollars. He took up this fake agreement and basically tore it up. He killed Qasem Soleimani. He said, made it very clear, including now, you cannot have a nuclear weapon, which means you cannot enrich. He's been very forceful. So for them, he's enemy number one.
Yeah.
I think that I notice a glee in the fact that, well, Trump has been really, let's say, adamant in his stance with Iran, and he has this kind of glee in his expression.
He's been very forceful. So for them,
he's been very forceful, and he does this gesture like straightening up in his chair. And I think that he's proud of Trump in that regard. That's what his body language says in that split second.
He's enemy number one.
Yeah.
Look, they also tried to kill me, but I'm his junior partner.
When did you?
Again, this is actual contempt, like joking. Oh, they also tried to kill me, but I'm his junior partner. As in, we are partners. Remember, we are partners. This is important to say.
They also tried to kill me, but I'm his junior partner.
When did
they
you
understand that President Trump is a great threat to Iran's plans to weaponize nuclear weapons and use them?
Again, what Netanyahu is trying to do here is obvious. He is saying this, trying to involve Trump and trying to involve in the USA to say, okay, it's like for Iran, you, Donald J. Trump, are a threat. So it will be better, since we are partners, that you do something about that. And yes, it's that is a way of trying to get the United States involved.
When did you tell President Trump you were going to launch these strikes?
Look, I've been in constant contact with President Trump. We've known each other for many years.
Another little stumble in there.
And obviously, we informed our American friends and President Trump, our great friend, ahead of time. We did. He knew about it, of course.
Well, you remember that sometimes when you shake your head, you're emphasizing something. Let's watch that again, because he was shaking his head, but I couldn't catch what he was emphasizing.
And obviously, we informed our American friends and President Trump, our great friend, ahead of time. We did. He knew about it, of course.
If he knew about the attacks, let me see. I have to watch that again.
Look, I've been in constant contact.
Okay, there was a stumble. He was looking down as well. Okay, two very small. Let's say not red flags. Let's say yellow flags.
In constant contact with President Trump. We've known each other for many years, and obviously we informed.
We've known each other for many years. That is irrelevant to the question. The question is something that's happening right now.
Our American friends and President Trump.
And notice how he says, and obviously, we informed.
Obviously, we informed our American friends.
Our American friends, and then Trump. The question was a question about Trump directly?
They understand that President Trump is a great threat to Iran's plans to weaponize nuclear weapons and use them.
When did you tell President Trump you were going to launch these strikes?
When did you tell President Trump you were going to launch these strikes? This is important. The question is very, thank you, Brett Bayer. The question is very specific. When did you tell President Trump that you were going to launch these strikes? All right? It's very specific, and the question, he begins to stumble, he looks down, he says he doesn't address the question directly. He doesn't answer the question directly. I've been in constant contact with President Trump. We've known each other for many years. He's diluting his answer, and he's not answering the actual question. All right?
And obviously, we informed our American friends.
And obviously, we inform our American friends. We're not talking about the American friends. We're talking about President Trump specifically.
And President Trump, our great friend.
Our great friend. Important.
Ahead of time. We did. He knew about it, of course.
No. I would say Oh my God. I'm pretty sure the comments are gonna be on fire over this. But I would say that no, it's just no. I think this maybe he informed one part. Okay, we might do something, but he did not say when or what they were going to do. But this thing right here,
Ahead of time. No, we did. He knew about it, of course.
there's a lot of noise in there.
Friend. Ahead of time. No, we did.
No, we did. No, we did. He shook his head.
Ahead of time. No, we did. He knew about it, of course.
He knew about it. The captions are off. He knew about it, of course, but
He knew about it, of course.
when he says of course, he nods, but before of that, he's shaking his
He
head.
knew about it, of course.
I have doubts. I don't know. I think that I don't think that there was complete transparency about those attacks, but we don't know the degree of that transparency.
I mean, there were reports that President Trump kind of helped you achieve your strategic surprise by publicly urging you not to attack when he already knew you had decided to do it. So you were closely coordinating with the U.S. throughout this process.
Yeah, that is an interesting question.
Look, we're fully coordinated, but understand that America, under President Trump, will make the decisions that are best for America.
All right, that for best for America. That's what everybody's saying.
And that's the way it is. He understands that I, as the Prime Minister of Israel, the one and only Jewish state, must make the decisions that are important for the survival of my country, and he will do what is best for America. That
All right. So again,
is a relationship of mutual respect and mutual confidence.
okay, that was like a last way of reinforcing the fact that the United States and Israel, there's a mutual respect and mutual confidence.
Must make the
right?
decisions that are important for the survival of my country, and he will do what is best for America. That is a relationship of mutual respect and mutual confidence.
But you have to notice that his body language was vastly different than the way that he addressed the other video that we were watching. That's why it's so important to compare body language and attitudes to see how people can change from one message to the other. Let me play. I think I can play a bit more of this clip.
The path for you to achieve your objective.
This is for the people. Remember that this is for the people of Iran, not the regime of Iran. For the people of Iran,
Which is freedom. In the past 24 hours, we've taken out top military commanders, senior nuclear scientists, the Islamic regime's most significant enrichment facility, and a large portion of its ballistic missile arsenal. More is on the way.
like when he says words like more is on the way, that's when he does that very threatening. That makes sense because he's saying of all these scientists and military leaders and all that stuff that they have taken out. That makes sense to have that threatening stare and stuff. But again, I think that we have seen enough from this comparison. I would love to know what you think about this in the comments. But most important, I'm sure that I will have a video that you want to keep watching so you have a better idea of what is going on in this conflict. My name is Jesus Enrique Rosas. I'm the body language guy. Much love and bliss.